Part 2 of Preface to the Mi'at Amil and Sharh Mi'at Amil by Abraham Lockett. Read for the LibriVox Language Learning Collection, Volume 5. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Abu Jalal. Preface to the Mi'at Amil and Sharh Mi'at Amil by Abraham Lockett. Part 2. I have now to offer a few words on the grammatical works here translated, but of their authors, unfortunately, I know little or nothing. The commentator, indeed, attributes the Mi'at Amil to Abdul Qahir ibn Abdul Rahman of Gurgan. Note the Gurkhan of Ibn Hawkal and the Qur'an of modern maps. Endnote. Whom he styles the most excellent of the learned, but he does not say in what age he lived, nor in what his excellence consisted, and we are left to form our own opinion of his merits from 5 pages of Arabic syntax. I find his name, however, in the Mir'atul Junan. Note, Tarikh Yafi'i Mir'atul Junan. Endnote. With a few particulars, which, as we have nothing better, we must substitute for a biographical memoir. Abdul Qahir, surnamed from eminence, An-Nahwi, or the grammarian, was of the sect of Shafi'i and one of the followers of Abul Hasan al-Ash'ari. Besides the Mi'at Amil and Jumul, another introduction to Arabic syntax, he wrote a learned commentary termed Al-Mughni in 3 volumes upon the Izzah, besides several other celebrated works on grammar and rhetoric, and died in the 474th year of the Hijrah, or about the middle of the 11th century of the Christian era. These facts, though a little mutilated and with some additions, are given in the preface to Meninsky. Note, Abu Bakr Abdul Qahir, gente persa, domo Georgianus, grammaticus et orator eruditus, praeclara edidit opera, ex quorum numero sunt, commentarius in rhetoricam dilucidatio nuncupatam, expositio particularum. Why alone particularum? Quae centum regentes dicuntur, commentarius in Alcoranum, et alia poetica opera, obit anno Hegirai 471, de Ling Arab 34. Endnote. On the authority of Shamsuddin, the author of a commentary on the Jumul, and both these works, the former with a Latin translation, are said to be deposited in the Escurial in Spain. Abdul Qahir appears to be the first grammarian who reduced the governing powers of the Arabic language to a definite number. Note, the author of the first works on Arabic regimen is said to have been Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad ibn Umar, who was born in 100 and died in the year 170 of the Hijrah. See the biographical work termed Kitabul Azhar. Endnote. And as he lived at a time when Grecian literature of every kind was ardently cultivated in Arabia, and when in fact almost every learned Arab made a merit of studying and copying the philosophical writings of the Greeks, it is not very improbable that the Centiloquium of Ptolemy, note see Vos de Natura Artium, the work is also attributed to Hermes. Endnote. A work on astrology, which must have been popular at that period in Arabia, gave him the first hint for the title of his treatise on regimen, and produced the Mi'at Amil, or 100 governing powers. The extreme brevity of the text has occasioned many commentaries on the Mi'at Amil, but that which usually accompanies it in this country, and which I have here translated, is generally supposed, I believe, to be written by a native of India. D'Herbelot mentions but one commentary, by Ibn Hisham, whose name as a grammarian he probably confounds with Husamuddin, who is stated in the Kashf-uz-Zunun to be one of the commentators of the Mi'at Amil. Note, the commentators mentioned in the Kashf-uz-Zunun are Haji Baba Tusi, Haji Baba of Tus, Husamuddin Tuqati, Husamuddin of Tuqat, Mullah Ahmad ibn Mustafa, Mullah Ahmad bin Mustafa, with Scholia written in 816. Yahya bin Yakhsha, Yahya bin Nuh bin Israel. Pocock speaks of an historian of that name, Amr Muhammad Adad al-Malik ibn Hisham, Obit anno Hejirai 213, Yuxta alios 218. Pocock Spec Arab His, page 362. Meninsky also mentions Ibn Hisham of Cairo, who died in 761 Hejirai. It may be necessary to inform the student that Averroes, see page 10, is corrupted from Ibn Rushd. His entire name is Abul Walid Muhammad ibn Ahmed ibn Muhammad ibn Rushd. See Hist Med et Epit Yafei Pocock. Endnote. It is possible, however, that Derbelot alludes to Sheikh Jamaluddin Abu Muhammad Yusuf, who was also known by the name of Ibn Hisham, but as no such commentary is attributed to him in either of the biographical works above alluded to, I feel some hesitation in allowing him to be the author of the Sharh Mi'at Amil. Derbelot, note, he calls the Mi'at Amil the 100 Particles, quotation in French, endnote. However, was certainly but very little acquainted with Abdul Qahir and his writings, and the account he gives of the Mi'at Amil in particular is a demonstrative proof that he was ignorant of the simplest principles of Arabic grammar. This is all the information I have been able to collect of the author of the Mi'at Amil and his commentators. Something more might perhaps have been found had I been more industrious, but I confess I did not think it necessary to toss over half the manuscripts in the college library for the purpose of adding one or two obscure anecdotes to the life of Sheikh Abdul Qahir. Neither would the search have rewarded my pains, for biography is a very different thing in Asia from what it is in Europe. There are no Pater Nostra Rose, nor Cadell and Davies in Arabia, and consequently there are no Boswells nor Piozzis. A grammarian may write 5 pages of syntax there without having 5 quarto volumes of memorabilia recorded of him. For who could copy them, or who would read them? The life of an Arabian worthy indeed is frequently dispatched in a line, and is seldom more entertaining or instructive than a hikyaket or a village epitaph. His name, his years, with a radiyallahu anhu, note, radiyallahu anhu, may God be satisfied with him, a pious petition which almost invariably follows the name of the defunct in Oriental biography, endnote, or a holy text from the Qur'an, supply the place of fame and elegy, and constitute the brief memorials of a literary career. Note, I ought perhaps to apologize for venturing this opinion of Arabian biography, for Sir William Jones, whose authority will doubtless be considered decisive, has given a very different account of the matter. He prefers the biography of Ibn Khalikan not only to that of Nepos and Laertius, but even to that of Plutarch himself. Nay, he seems inclined to rank the historian above all the biographers of ancient and modern times. Quote, Nescio an hic omnibus vitarum scriptoribus sit anteponendus. Est certe copiosior nepote, elegantior Plutarcho Laertio Jucundior, and so on. To all of which I can only answer, consult the biography of Ibn Khalikan. End note. Such is the life of Abdul Qahir, as handed down to us by two very popular historians, and the amount of the whole is simply this, that he was an eminent grammarian, that he wrote the Mughni, the Jumul, and the Mi'at Amil, and that he died in the year 474 of the Hijrah. There is no date to the commentary, nor can I pretend to settle one. I suspect, however, that it is comparatively modern. The author, at the conclusion of it, speaks of Ibn Malik, the grammarian, who died in AH 672, but if Derbelot's information be correct, it will probably give an antiquity of 500 years to the work, as Ibn Hisham is known to have died in 762. The Mi'at Amil must be considered as a mere textbook, in which the governing powers of the Arabic language are arranged into appropriate classes, their grammatical offices defined, and their primitive senses illustrated by easy, familiar examples. The commentary is an enlarged exposition of the governing powers after the precise order laid down in the text, for it preserves the same arrangement of the parts, the same definitions of the rules, and the same examples illustrative of the original force of the terms, adding, however, to the primitive or current senses the more immediately consequential or secondary acceptations. Let us explain by an example. The preposition ba', which is the first in the first class of grammatical agents, is stated simply in the text to be a genitive particle, and one example is subjoined to illustrate its force. The commentator repeats the rule regarding its regimen, but adds its primitive acceptation, which he states to be union, and this he considers as twofold, either absolute, as denoting actual coalition or cohesion of parts, or relative, as implying proximity or contiguity of person or place. The first he exemplifies by the phrase bihi da'un, he is sick, or sickness is inherent in him. The latter by the sentence marartu bi Zaydin, I passed by Zayd. He then goes on to define the collateral and accidental significations of this particle under the various relations of instrumentality, causality or causation, concomitance or association, substitution or exchange, inclusion or comprehension, with some others, which may be seen by referring to the translation, and each of these senses he elucidates by one familiar example. This is the general mode of analysis, as adopted in the commentary. The words are all considered either separately or in classes, their original and accidental significations defined and illustrated, and their analogous and anomalous syntactical structures pointed out and determined. The etymological formation of some words are occasionally explained, but this is but seldom, and only in particular cases where words apparently simple are shown to be compound, as kadha, formed from the particle kaf of similitude and the pronoun there. The commentary is short, is a simple introduction comprising a distinct general view of the essential parts of Arabic regimen and nothing more. To render it, however, as extensively useful as possible, I have transcribed from the works of several of the most eminent Arabian grammarians whatever appeared to me best calculated to illustrate the force and application of the several governing powers, and these with my own observations and remarks, subjoined to the translation, form a perpetual commentary on the text, which I trust will be found useful. To these annotations, sometimes critical and sometimes explanatory, I have occasionally added others of a more light and miscellaneous nature. They are not indeed of much importance to the work, and might well enough have been omitted, but they amused me at the time of writing, and may probably amuse others. To extract mirth or humour, however, out of Arabic grammar, must, I am persuaded, be looked upon as a hopeless attempt, an attempt perhaps not altogether dissimilar to that on record of certain ingenious people in the island of Mattiotechni, who are said to have employed themselves in gathering grapes from thorns and figs from thistles, or of others who pitched nets to catch the wind and caught cock lobsters. The original works from which I have selected the materials for the notes are as follows. Sharh Wafiyah. Note: Sheikh Jamaluddin Abu Amr wa Uthman ibn Amr al-Ma'ruf bi Ibn al-Hajib al-Maliki al-Nahwi, died AH 646. End note. Sharh Mullah. Note: Abdul Rahman bin Ahmad Nuruddin al-Jami, died AH 895. End note. Sharh Ruzi'. Note: Radiyuddin Muhammad bin al-Hasan al-Astrabadi al-Nahwi, died AH 816. End note. Sharh Misbah. Note: Tajuddin Muhammad al-Asrani, died AH. End note. Sharh Alfiyah. Note: Sheikh Abu Muhammad Abdullah bin Abdul Rahman al-Shahir bi Ibn Aqil al-Nahwi, died AH 869. End note. Qatr al-Nada'. Note: Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Yusuf Hisham al-Nahwi, died AH 862. End note. Mufassal. Note: Allama Jarullah Abu al-Qasim Mahmud bin Amr al-Zamakhshari, died AH 838. Pocock has given the name erroneously. Sharh Shawahid li Mughni, that is, Explicatio Testimoniorum quae in Grammatica Dicta Mughni Labib, Abu Muhammad Abdullah bin Hisham, conscripta afferuntur, cuius autor est Jalaluddinus, idem qui commentarium in Al-Qurani partem scripsit, page 367. End note. Of these, the three first are commentaries on the Kafiyah, the first by Ibn al-Hajib, the author of the text, the second by Mullah Jami, the poet, and the third by Radiyuddin Muhammad of Astrabad. The Wafiyah, though a very valuable work, is perhaps but little read. The Sharh Mullah, as it is generally called, is a logical and argumentative comment on the text, and is everywhere studied in India, but the commentary by Radi, from which indeed the greater part of Jami's is supposed to be borrowed, is the most voluminous and elaborate of all, and is justly considered a chef d'oeuvre of grammatical science. Of the other works, namely the Sharh Misbah by Tajuddin Muhammad of Asfaran, the Qatr al-Nada' by Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Yusuf Hisham, and the Sharh Alfiyah by Sheikh Abu Muhammad Abdullah bin Abdul Rahman, more generally known by the name of Ibn Aqil, I have nothing particular to offer. They are all popular works in Arabia, and the latter in particular seems to possess the same rank in Baghdad as the Sharh Mullah does in India, a fact which is certainly somewhat remarkable, as the former is as much famed for simplicity as the latter is for subtlety. The same may be observed of the Mughniul Labib, by far the most useful work on Arabic grammar with which I am acquainted. It has supplied me with almost everything valuable on the particles. In order to illustrate with greater effect the practical applications of these most subtle parts of speech, as they are sometimes called, I have added at the conclusion of the annotations on each an Arabic story, in which the particle will be found to occur under all the senses ascribed to it in the commentary. The natural and popular use of the word will by this means be better understood, its lighter and more evanescent shades of meaning rendered more obvious and determinate, and the whole series of primitive derivative and metaphorical acceptations exhibited at one view in an easy and regular scheme of explication. I have pursued this plan throughout the volume. A story is appropriated to every preposition, and afterwards to every class of governors consecutively. The words thus explained are distinguished by figures in the original, that the student may be enabled to compare their use with the explanations given in the commentary, and the whole is accompanied with an easy English version. The stories thus given are partly original and partly extracted from books, either printed or in manuscript. Those at the commencement of the commentary were prepared by Sayyid Ahmed, a learned Arab of the College of Hanifa, who accompanied me from Baghdad in the year 1812. The sudden and unexpected death, however, of this most excellent scholar, a few months after his arrival in Calcutta, deprived me, at an early period, of the benefit of his services, and forced me, reluctantly, to relinquish the extensive plan of illustration, which he had himself originally proposed, and by which I had hoped to diversify and enliven my commentary with much curious and interesting matter. This pleasing scheme, however, was in a great measure prevented by his death. I had no choice of materials, and was frequently obliged to adopt a number of insipid stories, which, under other circumstances, I should certainly have rejected. The most entertaining portion of them was supplied me by an ingenious native of Yemen in Arabia, Nathaniel Sabat. Note, at present employed by the Reverend T. Thomason on a translation of the New Testament into Arabic, end note, whose literary talents and acquirements are well known in India, and for whose useful assistance in this department of my work I am under considerable obligations. My constant guide and companion in almost every stage of this translation was Molavi Amanatullah, a learned native of India, formerly on the establishment of the College of Fort William, and a more able guide or skilful and judicious instructor I know not well where I could have found. For poetical versions of sundry passages from the Arabian poets, which will be found occasionally interspersed through the notes, I am entirely indebted to the kindness of my friend Mr. Wilson. Note, with the exception of the paraphrase in page 48, end note, the learned and elegant translator of the Megha Duta, note, or Cloud Messenger, a poem in the Sanskrit language by Kalidas, end note, and to Captain Roebuck of the college, who afforded me his assistance in conducting the work through the press, I beg leave to offer my best thanks. I have no further observations to make on the works here translated, and of the translation itself any observation on my part must be useless. I shall therefore offer none. It may speak for itself or be silent. The typographical errors are indeed rather numerous, and require some apology. I believe they were occasioned in a considerable degree by the rapidity with which a large portion of the work was hurried through the press, for it is certain that the greater part of the commentary, with all its appendages and extracts, stories, annotations, etc., were prepared, translated, and printed off in somewhat less than 5 months. I have endeavoured, however, to rectify these mistakes as well as I could, by a table of errata, which will be found in general to consist of little more than transpositions in the vowel points. The errors in the English part are not likely to embarrass the student, and I have accordingly omitted to record them. If to the 2 elementary works contained in this volume be added the 1st and 5th chapters of the Misbah, note, the Misbah is the 3rd, and the Hidayat al-Nahm, the 4th of the 5 books on Arabic grammar, published in Calcutta in 1802, end note. Or rather, perhaps, a portion of the Hidayat al-Nahm, a body of syntax will be formed sufficiently comprehensive for every practicable purpose whatever. But if the student aspires to a higher and more accurate knowledge of the subject, and would understand not only the rules, but the reasons of the rules, with all the delicacies, refinements, and peculiarities of this admirable system of speech, I would recommend to him a Grammar of the Arabic Language by Mr. Lumsden, the Persian and Arabic professor in the College of Fort William, a work which I am persuaded will be found to exhibit the most profound and masterly analysis of the language that has ever been presented to the public. Calcutta, 23rd July, 1814. End of Preface to the Mi'at Amal and Sharh Mi'at Amal by Abraham Lockett. Read by Abu Jalal. Recorded in Oxford, England.